Hi, I'm Lincoln Kennedy, Raider for Life, and you were watching the game last night.
Hey.
Hi, welcome to Ohlone Cigar Bar.
Oh, thank you. This looks awesome.
So, Olivia, this is my spot. This is where I like to come and hang out when I have some free time.
Hey, party people. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Game Last Night. I'm your host, Olivia Christian, and my guest today is three-time Pro Bowler and Raider for Life, Lincoln Kennedy. Lincoln and I met up at one of his favorite spots to relax and enjoy an amazing cigar, the Ohlone Cigar Bar in Fremont, California. Co-owner Jim and his team helped us pick out the perfect cigar to go along with a great conversation about the league, Lincoln's longevity, Raider Nation, the legacy of Al Davis, and what to expect from the Silver and Black this season. Since retiring in 2004 as an 11-year veteran, Lincoln has been further embracing his entrepreneurial side by creating his own premium brand of cigars called LK. That's EL-K. Now, I'd never tried a cigar before, so I got a lesson from him, and he gave me little tips during our conversation. You'll see that I got a little loopy and tongue-tied, but Lincoln was cool and patient with me throughout. So let's go ahead and jump into the conversation.
How do you feel? All right?
I feel happy.
Here you go,
on
Heaven.
Saturday morning. I've heard you say that you were your size that you are now when you were in high school.
Yeah.
And you didn't start playing football until your sophomore
So
year.
sophomore year, yeah.
Talk to me about, like, once you found that love for the game, what that process was for you to think, I can go to college now.
Yeah.
And where you ended up on that.
Yeah. For me, it was growing up in the inner city of San Diego. I grew up in southeast San Diego. I was originally raised in the arts. I played trumpet since the 3rd grade up until high school, where I was discovered by my football coach. In all honesty, never really cared that much about football. It wasn't a passion of mine. It was a way for me to seize an opportunity to get out of the neighborhood I was and go on to college. Even after all the accolades and everything I received, I never thought of myself as that good. So it was,
Really?
it just wasn't part of my makeup. I wasn't one of those typical, sort of gung-ho athletes. I questioned everything. So when the coach gave me a blocking assignment and it just didn't look right, well, why are you doing it this way? Why wouldn't you do it? Made all my coaches mad. Too over analytical, to be honest, but it was what it was.
But it served you well.
It served
You're
me well.
questioning
Yeah,
those
exactly
things.
right. Exactly right. So I had to understand why we were doing things, and then of course I had to understand what everybody else was doing. So how we are all working as a unit, what's going to happen, that type of thing. And then in college, naturally, I was happy, I was pleased that I could go to the University of Washington and get a degree, because I didn't know how else I would be able to afford it with humble beginnings and stuff. And then NFL came knocking on the door, and there was the possible future. So it was like, wow. Okay,
I love that
let's
you're
make this.
downplaying him. The NFL came banging at the door. You had a great college career. You're now in the College Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What was it like? Every step, you go from high school to college going, I don't know how I'm going to get to college.
Right.
You made it. Now, what am I going to do next? Oh, I'm going in the first round.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you really could enjoy it and think, oh, I guess I am pretty good? Or did you continue to question it season after season?
I continue to question it, because an idle mind is the devil's playground. So when you see somebody drafted around you or behind you at your position, you might question your ability. Do I still have it? Well, the reason why I try to remain as humble as I did is because I wanted to remain hungry, and I wanted to go out there and still strive to be best. And I took it personally when I got beat. So I never wanted my responsibility to hit the quarterback or the ball carrier.
Yeah.
So I strived for that until I couldn't physically do it anymore. And then that's when I walked away from the game.
Well, you won some awards, being in the Pac-10, now the Pac-12. You think about all you gave to the university, to the team, the conversation around compensating players.
Right.
I think it's going to be a conversation for some time now, especially as college football gets gianter and gianter.
Gianter is a word?
Yeah.
No, it's when you smoke that cigar. It is.
Bigger
Okay.
and bigger.
Yeah.
What do you think about, what's your opinion about compensating
They should.
players?
Absolutely. I
Can we
think
drink to that?
Yes. Cheers.
Oh, thank God he
Cheers.
agrees with me.
No, absolutely.
So you agree with the necessity of compensating some of these athletes.
Here's I do agree they should be compensated. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. To what level do you compensate them? How much do you compensate them? Does a conference like the Pac-12 compensate more than, say, a conference like the Big West or Mountain West? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Big Sky. And if so, how unfair of a recruiting tactic is that? Because now kids want to go to Pac-12 schools because Mountain West's not paying enough.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Well, I figure, we put a man on the moon.
Right.
We're able to have multiple people analyze Game of Thrones episodes, right? And all the twists and we can figure out some way to compensate these players, figure out in a way. It's something I feel like if you want to do something, you're going to figure out.
The thing is do you tell me, are the bigger conferences more equipped to pay their athletes than the smaller conferences? There are certain schools that are mainly basketball schools.
Yeah.
There are certain schools that are mainly football schools. There are some certain schools who don't generate the
Revenue
type
at
of
all.
revenue. Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So where does that lie? I'm not there yet because I don't know if there's a unanimous or a universal amount that you could pay that would be fair.
Right. Well, I think it's something that we can figure out, right? I think individual schools or conferences, while it may disrupt recruiting, players may want to go to one conference or another because they might be compensated, but that's another challenge. I mean, every school
Right.
has that challenge.
Right.
I want to go to Alabama or I
Right.
want to go to Ohio State. Like everybody's battling.
Right.
But if you are in a position where you can earn some money and send money to your family or not have to live on toast while your jersey is selling
Yeah.
and your coach is making $7 million a year, I feel like we should be getting to a point where the conversation is about, okay, how? We understand it's necessary. Let's all get together at some point, and all meaning individual conferences or schools
Right.
or whatever, figure out how these big names get paid.
Well, I will say this. I think in today's climate, we've gotten away from the commitment to an education. I think that it's been skewed because the money is so big.
Yeah.
And people see what so much is going on. Everybody wants a piece of their pie. I will say this because I've been in the system. I know that when I was in college, my scholarship check for the last 2 years was $450 and $480 in Seattle. Now I think it's 4 times that amount, whatever it is a scholarship check. I have a hard time believing that any of these athletes were going hungry at any of these premier programs. There's ways you're going to get fed, okay? Because they take care of the athletes.
The legal ways.
The legal ways.
Okay.
But here's the thing. I think it's unfair that, say you're a big fan of Washington athletics and you see the star quarterback who's right in front of you in line getting a hamburger. And oh my gosh, you just beat Washington State. Let me buy you that hamburger. I think that's unfair for it to be an infraction or to be a penalty.
Yeah.
Or if you can get suspended for that. I think that's unfair.
Right.
I would like for them to come up with maybe a process, an incentive to appease graduation. Here's the thing. Let's say that if you graduate in 4 years or whatever it is, however long it takes you, there's a lot of money, a stack of money waiting for you because you graduated. That's the incentive for going to college. That's the incentives for playing college football. If you go in the NFL, it's
amazing,
gravy. But we know that percentage-wise, that's not likely to happen.
Right.
So
but those players who still contributed to the bottom line for that university are getting something for finishing and
finishing,
participating
exactly
in that.
right. Just a nominal amount at the end of when you graduate. This is thank you for playing college athletics. Thank you for graduating. Now you get you get a degree and you get money at the end.
All right, well, I'm going to think about that some more. I think you're headed somewhere.
I think because
This makes me think, by the way.
I see. Yeah, you're really thinking.
So I want to talk now about your time as a Raider in the NFL. When I think about the Raiders, they've got a long legacy. Let's go back to some of the early years in the 60s with Al Davis at the helm. I think about Al Davis, about how he really broke a lot of diversity barriers in the NFL. He hired the first black coach, hired the first female chief executive. Where Oakland is in the middle and one of the most diverse regions in the country. Are we fully embracing that in Oakland? Raiders, do we talk about that in the locker room when you were there? Was there a feeling of we're in a legacy organization and we work as a team thinking about that kind of thing?
I was always impressed with Mr. D because I felt like he was a grandfather that had more stories than he could possibly tell. And he would always share little tidbits, little facts like you're mentioning with players. He was very personable. And one thing I appreciated most about Mr. D was that he knew more about your family than you would think an owner would. Okay, watch the cherry over your pants. I don't want you to burn your pants. So if
Okay.
you need to put it down, you can sit it right there and take a break.
I'm gonna hold this the whole time.
You want to hold it the
I
whole
like
time?
it.
Okay. All right. So that's also a sign of a good cigar when you don't put it down. Because that means you like what you're doing.
I
So
do, I like it.
lesson number 3. No, but in all honesty, with Mr. D, he was very personable, and there were many a times where he came up and asked me about my family by name before he asked anything about football. I played for 2 organizations. I was originally drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, and then I came over to Raiders, and they were polar opposites as far as the way they treated players.
Really?
Arthur Blank did not, who owns the Falcons now, was not the owner. It was the 5 ranking Smiths back in my day. So different ownership, different personality, different temperament throughout the organization. I enjoyed my time here. I enjoy the people here. I enjoy the Raider Nation. This was, and it's to this day one reason why I'm so close with them, because I enjoy the ambiance that is the Raider Nation.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, yes, that history has always been felt, and that's why you talk to players who played in the silver and black, and they all say the thing: once a Raider, always a Raider.
Yeah.
A lot of guys finished their careers here. A lot of guys in the twilight of their careers did it in a Raider uniform, and I think because the organization was so well thought of that they enjoyed themselves.
Yeah, well, talking about the diversity and Al's personality and his quest, really. I mean, there are lots of opportunities where he could have gone with the grain and said,
Right.
well, we're not doing that yet. In
Right.
due time, we'll get
Right.
there with diversity. This conversation is obviously having on a national level, and I feel like football can't escape it. Every few years, we go through something like this where we have these conversations. You are a father of 3 boys. What kind of conversations are you having with them about what's happening in the country? And talk about players like Marshawn Lynch or Kaepernick and what they're doing. Are you having
Those conversations
Yeah.
with them, absolutely, because we live in a society where there's a lot of racial divide, and it's unfortunate, but it's true. As a black man, it's unfair for me to be driving down the street to see a cop pull up on me, and all of a sudden I get tense, even when I know I didn't do anything wrong. But that's the
That's
nature.
reality.
That's a reality.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So with my boys especially, living in Phoenix, and I've had the conversation with them when they ask for toy guns because they like being soldiers. Okay, we can't have anything that looks like this. You need to get a brightly colored gun, and you're only playing with it in the backyard. You do not go in the front yard. These things, because I'm being mindful. I'm saying,
Yeah.
I'm showing them the news. This is what's happening. It's sad, but it's true. And I believe that platforms such as athletes have, they need to be smart about what they say, because I've been there and done that in the past, and I believe generally the sports audience wants to see their athletes and not necessarily hear from them. Generally, there are exceptions, but I know collectively the NFL doesn't want their athletes to be protesters.
Yeah.
The NFL doesn't want, because that's bad for business.
Right.
So if they could get everybody lined up and can control everybody to do this, that's good for business. But when you don't,
Well, when I think about professional sports and when they were integrated, that's a political statement. Any individual who's willing to cross the color barrier when they're in a position of power,
right,
and they say, I want to make my team better.
Right.
I'm looking for the best athlete.
Right.
That's making a political statement. That
Certainly.
person who's willing to integrate that team, be the one and only. And then to step up in the the Jack Johnson or the Muhammad Ali
Yeah.
or the Jim
Jim Brown. You want to put the
God,
bourbon down?
this is really-
You want to put the bourbon down? It's like, I don't want to let either one of them go.
Whatever. No, but all of those folks at that time were seen as being controversial.
Right.
And now we can look at them and say, thank God they did what they did and said
Yeah.
what they said, because we wouldn't be where we are now.
True.
And so when we hear these conversations now where people are like, why don't you just stand up? Or I don't understand what the big deal is. This is football. I just want to watch football.
Well, this is, and you're right, and it really is a difficult question, because there's not one right answer. I believe everybody has the freedom to do what they want to do. Okay, just because you're standing for the national anthem doesn't mean that you have to say you pledge allegiance and sing with it. And you're just standing out of respect. But if you choose to kneel, or you choose to sit, or you don't want to, that's your choice.
Right.
It shouldn't be made a big deal that's how you're doing something, because that has nothing to do with your game. Now, I've said on my radio show, and when it happened last year, when Colin Kaepernick first was taking a knee, I said on my radio show, I thought he was sulking because he had lost his starting position. I didn't think it had anything to do with the protest. Okay? That was just my interpretation of his body language and the way he looked, the scowl on his face when the camera got him. And then you fast forward it. I'm not taking anything away from Colin Kaepernick because he's a man who whatever his beliefs are, he put his money out there towards his beliefs.
Yeah.
You know what? Good for you. Kudos for you. If it were me, I would have liked to see him, or I would have tried to do more as far as voicing my opinion and having that platform.
At the onset? Like say
At
this
the
is why
onset,
I'm doing-
absolutely. This is why I'm doing it, and follow up and continuously follow up with it when you got the opportunity, the platform, even in the off season. Now he's got to be cautious because he wants a job.
Yeah. Do you think this is the reason why he doesn't have a job?
I think it's part of it, but I also think it's a skill set. You've got to have a particular offense geared for him to be successful.
Yeah.
There aren't many teams that have that.
I don't know if there are that many quarterbacks that are signed now that are better than Kaepernick. I think there are a lot.
But again, you have to. I certainly respect your opinion, Olivia. But here's the thing: you have to remember, he has a particular skill set.
Right.
That's
He's a running quarterback.
He's a running quarterback.
Right.
And he came on heavy when running quarterbacks kind of came out of blocks, and no one really knew how to stop them. Now most of those running quarterbacks are gone.
Yeah.
Even Russell Wilson's changed up his game.
Yeah.
And to be honest, from my vantage point, there's only one offense out there in the National Football League that can utilize, and that's Seattle.
Yeah.
That can
when
really
they
use it,
passed,
and they passed on.
That was tough.
And it's a combination of the skill set. It's also a combination of the political climate because both New York teams, who could probably use a backup quarterback his caliber, said no, we don't want the distraction.
Yeah.
We don't want the political influence if we bring him in.
Well, even though he won an award from his teammates saying, "You're awesome."
Yeah.
I think that's what the plaque said. You're awesome.
Really?
He's
Your
joking.
awesome award. Okay. Uh-huh.
You're the awesomest.
Yeah.
We love you. Well, I'm going to get back talking about the Raiders.
Okay.
You had a long career. It's
Long.
not a long, amazing career. Three-time
Thank
Pro
you.
Bowler. But I mean,
Thank you.
amazing and long in that not a lot of players can last that long.
Right.
What do you credit your longevity to?
Realizing early that your body was your biggest investment and taking care of my body. So I did a lot of non-traditional training regimens. Like I was deep into Pilates, yoga, flexibility for an offensive lineman is key because you always have people falling around your legs.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to contort as naturally as possible so you can prevent bones. So I was fortunate enough to have an 11-year NFL career and no zippers on my knees, never had a knee surgery other than scopes, no surgeries other than scopes even on my shoulders and stuff like that. That's one of the reasons why I was able to come through it the way I did.
Yeah. Well, recently Jim Pluckett's story came out about the constant pain that he's living in, all of these reports about CTE and head-to-head. Like I said earlier, you've got 3 sons, you've got one in the NFL now. Are you nervous about the effects that you might run into later on in life or what your son might be facing in the
I'm
future?
confident that my choice of professions knocked a few years off of my life expectancy. I feel that way. But at the same point, it was my choice. Football gave me an education, allowed me to live comfortably and do some stuff with for my family and for myself. That was a conscious effort. I mean, a conscious decision. When it comes to my kids, and I've told my boys, generally our rule in our house, to start with, the rule in our house is that you can't play contact football till you're in high school. Everything else would be flag or whatever, other sports will play, but no contact. And that's more for the development of the body than anything else. And then the second thing, which is different than the way I was brought up and the way I was taught the game, is that pain is not a sign of weakness. Pain is a sign that something's wrong.
Yeah, your body is telling
So
you
I
something.
need you to tell me when something is wrong, no matter what it is, your finger, your head, whatever it is. There is no pain that is not great for you not to tell me, and then we address it. Now, it was different when we were kids because pain was a sign of weakness. Oh, you got a headache? Just get back out there. That's bad. That's bad teaching. You see what I'm saying? That's bad coaching, and that's not the right way. So it's about communication.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling my kids.
It's no longer just tough it out.
That's
it's
right.
Recognize.
Talk to me.
Yeah.
Tell me
Well, I
what's
think the NFL, they've obviously been trying to, for quarterbacks anyway, try to create some rules around protecting franchise, protecting certain
they
players.
put a strike zone on the quarterback. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that Jim Plunkett was saying. Like in my day, they could take as many steps as they wanted to after I threw the ball, nailed it to the ground, and you grew up in that era as well, where those rules were in place. Tell me about the changes, what do you think the NFL is doing? Are they on the right path with
I think-
making these decisions, or are we losing some of the fun of the game?
No.
Because we can't hit Brady, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they'll still say it was a tucker if even if you chin check them. Anyways, don't want to go. Okay. All right.
Do you think that some of these changes have really resulted in it becoming a softer game?
Safer?
It's
No,
safer, but
it's-
is it less enjoyable?
It's not less enjoyable because it's still in everybody's wish list. Football is still one of the big ones that everyone looks for. Is it safer? I think it's safe. It's safer to an extent because there's power in information. If you understand, or someone explains to you the likelihood that you can have a severe injury or severe mentally diminished over time by playing this game, there's power in information.
Yeah.
Now you make the choice to do it. I think it's being safer that way. All in all, it's a contact sport. And there's no way to play the game without contact.
Right.
So, how they implemented the rules over the last couple of years to make the offense, give the offense more leeway and make it harder for defense. There's the challenges that are still out there. Even all the rule changes after everything's been done, Olivia, you still see what it takes to win championships. Run the ball and play defense.
Yeah.
Even with all the fluff.
And that's knock your heads together.
Exactly. So you still have that toughness aspect about it. But as I said, there's power in information. So give guys the choice.
Well, when you talk about toughness, it makes me think about the Raiders that you knew in your day. They were known for being tough. The Raiders that are in existence now, Carr, Mack.
They're tough.
They're tough,
Right.
But I feel like they're playing differently. I think it's a different kind of...
It's a different game.
Yeah.
It's a different game.
Talk to me about the chemistry of your team, the mentality that you guys had in that room when you got ready for the game, getting on the field. Was it just, let's knock the hell out of people? And
Yeah, there were some guys who thought like that. So we were most effective on offense under Gruden. We only ran a handful of plays, but we ran them damn well.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what you did because everyone knew their responsibility and everyone knew how to defeat whatever you put out there. A lot like you see what had a system like what Brady has in New England.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why he was as successful as in his entire career, he's had the same system. So he's mastered it.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what parts around him, he's the controller, he mastered it, he knows what to do. That's how you become effective, and that's how you stay effective.
Well, Reggie McKenzie has come in and made a lot of moves and really changed the
climate,
the climate around the Raider
foundation. Yeah.
organization,
Yes.
and people are hyped.
Right.
What is it that he's doing that other executives hadn't done in those years that Raiders went through that drought?
Prior to Mark Davis getting the team, it was Al's show. So Al did a lot of the drafting, the trading, the everyday football operations. Al was, Mr. D, may he rest in peace, Mr. D was so focused on trying to win a championship, he was going out there, he was basically, raffling the future of the organization away to try to win now.
For the right now, bringing in
exactly.
some of the later
Bringing
players.
likely a Carson Palmer, making a trade, giving away draft choices and stuff like that, and of course missing on certain draft choices. Jamarcus Russell was a miss.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So when you miss at quarterback, especially in the first round, you set your organization back 3-4 years.
Right.
Because it's going to be that long until you're able to recover from it. And that's exactly what happened. So now you're giving away the future. So what Reggie did when he got the job, and I credit Mark Davis for doing this because he said, you know what, look, I'm not my father. I'm not going to pretend to be. I need some help.
Yeah.
He hired a general manager. The general manager said, we're going to build a foundation because that's what worked for him at Green Bay in the organization. Build a foundation, draft well, scout well, draft well, and raise these players up within, and that way you have a solid future. Now we're seeing the payoff of that. Getting Khalil Mack in the first round, to follow it up with the second round by getting Derek Carr, getting Amari Cooper, getting Gabe Jackson, all these guys that have been around that are going to make up the foundation of this team for years to come, and then you get maximum effort out of that window. Now they've got to strike with the griddles hot because this team is not going to stay together for that long.
Right.
So you're looking at maybe a 1 or 2 year window before this thing starts to be broken up again.
Yeah, before knees go out, people get traded.
Well, it's not so
money
much
for-
knees go out, but it's just that you can't keep everybody. So as good as we saw the team last year finish 12-4, the thing is that there's not going to be much longer where you can't pay everybody top dollar.
Right.
Now, they just paid Derek Carr top dollar. They're going to pay Khalil Mack top dollar, and they're going to pay Amari Cooper top dollar when it comes. That's your foundation. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those are your key components. But there are going to be other guys that are going to want their money and are going to go elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, we've got 2 years, 2 or 3 years to really
Yes.
make something happen.
Yes.
And in 2 years, they're going to be in Vegas.
Yes.
What do you think about that? I think this conversation on Vegas and Oakland, that's the one time you talk about Vegas and you don't say, like, Vegas, baby. And now it's like, Vegas, is this really going to happen?
Personally, I'm a little torn because I do have a heart here in Oakland. I'm an affinity towards Oakland.
Yeah.
But at the same point, the reason why I say I'm torn because this team deserves its own stadium. I came to the organization in 1996, and that was their first full year of being back up here. It was on the talk of everybody's tongue back then.
Back
in
then.
'96, they're going to get a new stadium. 21 years later, you still don't have a new
Well,
stadium.
do you not think, I mean, the conversation around privately funded stadiums
Right.
is one that is one that we're continuing to have. The Warriors, who were in the, I said earlier to you, the Warriors recruited me to play for them at one point. They went through the desert for a long time. Now they're the team of the NBA. They're moving over to San Francisco, privately financed stadium.
Right.
Is that not something that Mark and his friends could have figured out for Oakland?
That I don't know. I know that when I first started talking to Mark Davis about it, he said he wanted to stay here. And he was trying to do everything in his power to stay here. I don't know the politics behind it. I don't know how we, I personally don't think that the people, especially a blue-collar town like Oakland, should have to fund a stadium. I don't think it should be taxed to the people.
Hear,
But
hear.
I do feel that because there should have been something that could have been done over 2 decades to get this issue resolved.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to me why one of the most iconic organizations in professional sports has to share its stadium with the baseball team.
I agree. I don't think it should share. I think the Raiders conversation, and I can be completely wrong, my opinion is, like I said, you have some good years and bad years.
Right.
I think with the Warriors, it was like, oh, we're on an upswing. Let's hurry up and get this stadium
Right.
built. And now that we're at this point again where the Raiders are on the upswing,
Right.
it was like too little too late.
Yeah.
Now they've signed the deal.
Well,
it's-
and then what I know is like, with the thing with the A's, when Mark had what I heard, when Mark Davis had the contractor ready to refurbish the stadium and remodel the stadium, the A's renewed their lease, a 10-year lease, and
there's nowhere to go.
there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, you talked about your affinity for Oakland
Mm-hmm.
and the area. The fans out here and all over the country really
Yeah.
are insane.
Around the world.
Around the world.
Around the world.
Let's not limit it.
That's right.
Talk to me about some of the fans that you run up against when you're on the field and you're doing commentary. Like, what are you hearing from them, and what kind of emotion?
Everyone around the league always wants to make fun of the Raider fans. What does dressing up like Darth Vader have to do with the? It's an escape because I know a lot of these people. I mean, we're talking about successful people, attorneys, IT. I mean, just successful people. This is their escape. Dressing up, supporting their team their way. It's supposed to be, talking to a lot of them, like, I want you to be distracted. The fact that I'm holding up skulls or, Dr. Death, whatever. It's the Raider Nation. So even though there are tons of fan bases that talk about us, there are many of them that want to be like us.
Yeah.
They want to have that type of passion for the team, and that's fine. Everybody celebrates. Everyone does that their own particular way. What is they used to have the barrel man in Denver who used to walk around with the barrel and then supposed to be naked. What does it have to do with being a Bronco? That's
not the point.
That's not the point. Their fan base celebrates. So I love the people for what they are, as genuine and true, and they're just down to earth. And I challenge anybody who's ever said, "Oh, well, it's not safe to go to a game in Oakland." I said, "That's not true." I said, "Here's the thing. I've watched people in the black hole wear a Manning jersey, a Bronco jersey, and I'm like, why would you do that? You're trying to start something. Why would you want to be that person? You want to walk into a lion's den with a meat belt around you and be like, hey, I dare you to touch me. Okay, well, you get that liquid courage in you, somebody's going to touch you. It's not a dangerous place to watch a game. It is what it is.
And the videos on YouTube, and
That's
you're
right.
famous for getting your ass kicked. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about whether or not you have the opportunity to talk to some of the current players, and you're a veteran, you've been there, done that. Like, what's that relationship like? Who are you talking to, and what kind of advice are you giving them?
Well, I like to talk to the guys in the trenches. I like to talk to any young guys. I think I have a pretty good relationship with Derek and some of the new stars. I remember interviewing Amari Cooper for Silver and Black Productions when he was drafted. And here's a shy kid, come from Alabama, doesn't really say a lot. And of course has to be a little bit thrown off by all this attention that he's getting. He gets drafted, they fly him in the next day. Now you've got all these microphones in your face asking you all this stuff. And And to be able to relate with them, and the fact that I've been there and done that, it's not that far removed.
Yeah.
A lot of them watched me play, so they can respect that and appreciate it. Versus, say, someone like a Jim Otto or a Plunkett, they only know through legend. You
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think that has a little bit of an in. And I'm doing work with the Silver and Black Productions now with the Chalk Talks and everything else. So I'm staying current around that.
I'm watching those Chalk Talks on YouTube.
Did you?
Like, trying to learn some
There you
stuff. I'm not just gonna sit there on Sunday and watch.
Right.
Like, I want to learn. I mean, they talk about athletes as being dumb jocks, but football, you kind of have a high IQ to
Yes.
excel in this
Yes.
league. Like I said earlier, you're a 3-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine these young players are like, I got to get under this guy's wing, listen
Well,
to what
certainly,
he has to
and
say.
I'm always eager to help out in any capacity.
So since you're eager to help, I would like to get Derek and Marshawn.
Good luck with that.
You don't have some phone numbers?
I can't share them because then they won't talk to me anymore.
Some crazy girl called
Exactly,
me. Said she'd
exactly.
do you. Well, I want to thank you for joining me and introducing me to my new fun hobby.
What do you think?
I'm in love with it.
Is that right?
Yes.
Good.
I mean, I could be pretty high, maybe I'm not in love with it. Like later on today, I'm gonna be like, ugh. But right now, in this moment,
In the ambiance, you're ready. You're in the
it's
moment.
happiness right now.
It looks good in your hand. You're doing
Thank
well.
you. I'm pinky.
That's right. When in doubt, pinky out. That's high class right there. That's high class.
All right. Well, go Raiders, yeah.
That's right. Go Raiders. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Lincoln.
Huge thanks to Lincoln for sharing his cigar wisdom with me and for being an awesome guest. You can hear him now as a sideline reporter for the Raider Radio Network and co-host of the weekly talk show The Fellas, along with Anthony Gargano on Fox Sports Radio every Saturday from 3 to 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please, everybody, follow us on social media and stay in touch. And until next time, stay woke.